what I consider to be the critical components of running an effective real estate team meeting. In fact, this is the same way that I ran my real estate team meetings on a weekly basis for years and years and years. Stick around and check that out, and I'll even be showing you how you can get a copy of the slides that I used. Hi, I'm Mikesh, and I share proven strategies and techniques that I use to grow and scale my real estate company. All right, so let's dive right in. What do I consider to be the 7 critical aspects of running an effective real estate team meeting? Number 1, you've got to have participation. And I know this day and age, you guys are like, man, we can just kind of do these virtually and they don't have to be in person. I think there's something special about getting your people together in person. Now, if you're instantly like putting up walls in your mind and saying, well, I don't have an office space, I don't have somewhere to meet, think outside the box here. This could be something where maybe you have a mortgage broker who has a great office with a conference room, or you have a title company or an attorney that you work with regularly. They have an office space. Maybe you rent a, hotel lobby room, or you even have a church in your market where they'll let you come in and they have a room where y'all can meet. I think it's really important that we get people together, especially this day and age where it's not common practice. There's a certain energy that you're not gonna feel through a Zoom. Now, Zoom could be a great option for you if that's your only option. It's certainly a lot better than not running weekly meetings at all. But I really want to emphasize the importance of getting together in person and that special synergy and community and energy that can be felt when you guys are all in the same room together. But participation has to be something that you incorporate into your real estate team. Otherwise, you're going to find it very hard to have that community, that culture, that feeling of a team without doing that. So I always made participation mandatory. And I would tell my agents, hey, if for any reason you're not gonna be able to make it to the meeting, I get it. Things come up, that high dollar client comes into town and there's no other time that you can meet them, but then I get it, things happen. But what I would require of my agents is if you're gonna miss the meeting, you have to let me know at least a day in advance. And what I find is if that's the case, they're much less likely just not to show up. So they would have to call me and say, hey, I'm not feeling good, or hey, this situation happened. And that would give me an opportunity to, advise them of anything that's important that I'm gonna share with the team tomorrow, or tell them, hey, I'm gonna circle back around with you later tomorrow to tell you about something important that I'm releasing to the team tomorrow. And it just kept us in good communication, and it kept them coming on a regular basis. And I think that was super important for them. Number 2, positive focus. I like to start every meeting with positive focus. Even to this day, when I do meetings for different businesses that I run, I always start with positive focus. And what I like to do is I like to incorporate that positive focus into everybody that's in the meeting and really draw that positive focus out. So in my real estate meetings, we go around the room one by one, no particular order. We just kind of like go this way around the room or go that way around the room. And everybody would share one personal thing and one professional thing that they would consider a positive focus or a win from the past week. And I really challenged the people. And if they would say, something funny like, well, the sun's shining. Well, that's super awesome. And I would encourage them, what else are you excited about? Because the sun's been shining every day this week. And I would just kind of tease something out of them. The reason this is important is twofold. Number 1, it's going to help your team members get to know each other. Sharing that personal thing and not making the meeting all about business is so critical to that interconnectedness that you'll feel, that family environment that you want to create in your team. Now, even if your real estate company is small or big, you can still do this. It's fun to hear different things about people that you wouldn't maybe otherwise know, but it also does the second thing, which is it gets their engagement into the meeting right from the very start. And when they feel like they're a part of the meeting and engaged in what's going on, the effectiveness and the power that you bring as the leader to this group is going to be felt much more effectively throughout all of the other points that you want to bring when you start with their engagement. Number 3, accountability. Now you can sort of see how we're setting this thing up, right? We start out with some positive focus, and then we actually have to get into the accountability, which for me as the leader is the meat and potatoes of what's happening here in this meeting. We want to get into the accountability. And when it comes to accountability, you have to first ask yourself, what are the things that you're going to track? So, what are you going to be accountable to? And I love the statement that says, what gets measured improves, but what gets measured publicly improves exponentially. So what is it that you're going to measure? And then what are you going to publicly display as it relates to those measurements? In my company, we had 7 different things that we tracked on the sales side with the agents. It was, hey, how many new contact attempts did you make? How many new contacts did you have? Of those new contacts that you had, how many new appointments did you set? How many agency agreements did you get signed, how many follow-ups did you have, and how many new contracts did you have. And we could track all of those things, and we would do so publicly in the weekly meeting. So you want to have some accountability. You want to kind of think through that and figure out what is it that you're going to basically hold them accountable to, whether that's, prospecting activities or things that you want to manage in your business. What are they going to be and how are you going to display them publicly? So, getting the data is one thing. So if you're going to track something and you're going to have all your agents track that, how are you going to get that? We used to use Google Forms. They would have to upload their Google form before the end of the week, and then we would display that in the upcoming weekly meeting. Again, this is why participation and mandatory participation is so important. So you have that participation, you've got a positive focus, you're now getting into the meat and potatoes of the accountability. The next thing I want to track, number 4, is recognition. So once we've had the accountability, I want to recognize the behavior that I want to reward. So when it comes to recognition, what is it that you're going to highlight? And then the second thing is, how are you going to reward them for that? So we'd had a leaderboard, showing everybody's sales activity for the whole year to date. And that was cool because it created kind of like this healthy competition where it's like, oh, I want to be at the top of the leaderboard. And a lot of your salespeople, this is going to be really important. They're going to be competitive by nature. They're going to like this. And even if they're not super competitive, if you do this right, it highlights those in the work that they're doing, and others will want to be highlighted as well. Everybody likes to hear their name. Everybody wants a good pat on the back. So what are you going to track? So for us, the way we were tracking our sales, we would recognize the person that had the most amount of prospecting dials or appointments. And you can track anything you want. Just figure out what the area is, and then you can change it from week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter. Maybe one quarter you're going to work on, just tracking how many contact attempts there were, or you're going to track just new contracts, or you might track a variety of those things in each meeting. So we would track that, and then we used poker chips. We had real kind of Vegas weight poker chips made up with our company logo on them. It was super cool. And then each one of those poker chips had a value of $5. And they could use those poker chips to buy company swag, so things with our logo on it that they would use for closing gifts, or they would use for themselves, whether it was like polos with our company logo on it. They could also use them, which was super fun, at our company events. If we did like a monthly happy hour, or we did like a team breakfast, they would normally pay for that on their own, but they could use their poker chips and turn them in for that. So we just made it fun. We gamified it, and we used poker chips, and it was always fun to hand those out. But when it comes to recognition is super important. If you're not recognizing your people and creating an environment of recognition, you're going to have people that don't stay for a really long time. At least that would be my guess. The recognition is really important for salespeople, and if you do a good job and make it really fun, it will drive the future growth and the effort that your agents are putting into your company. Number 5, training. So you've got to have a training component of your weekly meeting, and that training could look like market update reports. It could be in every area of your business that you feel like you're not doing so well at, and you focus on that for the next quarter and make it really good. So I know at times in my company, we were like, man, one of the most important things that you guys can do is answer the phone when it rings, and answer it correctly based on where the call's coming from. So we would spend a lot of time working on that. We might spend a whole month working on sign calls. Okay, when the call comes in, here's how you respond to it. And then we would actually record these incoming calls, play them in the meeting, and we get better together. So you have to have a training component. I think at a bare minimum, once a month, your weekly meeting should be a monthly market update. So using a tool like Keeping Current Matters. Keeping Current Matters is a subscription service that will give you national market data on what's happening in the real estate market, and then you could add to that and give some local market data. But being an expert on the market is a critical skill that we can never take our foot off the gas on. And having that as a cadence into your training once a month takes care of 1 out of 4 weeks right there for you. And then other weeks could be things that you're working on, things that you want to improve. And then also things that I find in the real estate business are just on a 90-day cycle. So every 90 days, I got to tell my salespeople about, hey, this is the important times to contact people for prospecting when you get new leads. This has been proven to be a time that's most effective. This is what the sales cycle is. This is how we move people through it. So those are things that you're just going to train on in your business forever. They're never going to go away. Updates and announcements. Now, this is going to be generally a wide category that will, ebb and flow from week to week. But this could be things like, birthdays that you want to recognize, or it could be upcoming events. So if you're doing any kind of event for your team, whether that's an offsite, whether that's a monthly happy hour, if you're doing a special training, or you might be doing a power hour. So a night where you invite the team in, you get some pizzas and some drinks, and you guys are all gonna dial, and you're gonna make dials. We're gonna call that a power hour. We're gonna do it one night a week, maybe once a month. It could also be things like client events. So if you're doing client events, which I think you should be, and let's say you're doing your spring barbecue event for all of your past clients, notifying the team about that and how it's upcoming and making sure that they have it on their calendars as well. These are all things that we would talk about in updates and announcements. And number 7, last but certainly not least, I always have a portion of my meeting that's designated for my affiliates. So, as you become more successful, more and more people are gonna wanna do business with you. They're gonna want to basically be of service to your team as you become higher and higher volume. You're gonna have requests for, people from everything from like people that print logos on shirts and merchandise, to mortgage brokers, obviously, to lenders and title companies and home inspectors and all of this, right? They're gonna want to get in front of your team because you're going to be known as somebody that's really effective in your marketplace, selling a lot of real estate, and they're going to want to get in front of that. Contractors, home builders, all of that. The way that I've handled this, and I found it to be really effective, is I say, yeah, we'd love to have you come in and speak to our team. The only thing we ask is that you provide lunch, and here's a list of sources for how to do that. And generally it's very affordable, and it sort of weeds out the chaff, right? So, instead of just anybody wanting to get in front of your team and you're bringing somebody in that might be lower quality or what have you, and they're just trying to get, free access to your people and to the sales that you're doing. When we started implementing this, hey, you can come speak to our team and here's our structure. We're going to give you 15 minutes and you have to provide lunch. We ended our meetings with these affiliates. Now, all the people that we were already doing business with that were our affiliates that we worked with, they loved it. They came in, they would get on the schedule, no problem. And then some of the newer people, it would sort of be like a way for us to kind of gently deflect them. But it did open up the door in our eyes to new people that said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. These are like builders and like people that are running national building companies and have subdivisions in our neighborhood. They'd say, yeah, no problem, John, we'll provide lunch. And they would come in and they would share about their community, their development, or what have you. And it was just a really nice way of ending our meeting and creating that community where we're breaking bread together afterwards. And it took that expense and that obligation and that time consuming activity of getting the lunch off our plates, and we put it on somebody else's plate. So that might not be something that you can start out doing, but as you become more and more successful, I'd encourage you to look at doing that. It'll help keep people, from constantly like beating your door down, wanting to get in, and it'll create a system that's duplicatable and repeatable for you to be able to get people to sign up on that. So number 7, bringing in those affiliates and then ending your meeting with a meal is a great way to do it. So I hope that was super helpful. As promised, I'm going to actually give you a copy of my Google Slides for my meeting. So if you check out, there's a link in the description below. Help yourself to that and then use that to make it your own. You can copy that and then you can change out my information for yours, but that'll give you a great start to running an effective meeting. And again, I ran this meeting format for years, super effective. We sold hundreds and hundreds of homes a year. And I just felt like it really worked well. And those meeting slides are everything I've learned and tweaked and changed over the years to run meetings with these 7 critical components of running an effective team meeting.